Hello and welcome back to KSP POV, where we play Kerbal Space Program first person. Today we're going to be kicking off the first episode, the next multi-episode part series of our Kerbin's adventures back to Minmus. They no longer know that it's not made out of mint ice cream, so now they want to do some real science and figure out what it really is made out of. So we are going to be sending 3 Kerbals and a rover up there. So most of today's episode is going to be in the build sequence itself. If that's something that you don't necessarily care about, you can go ahead and skip ahead. I'll put the timestamp right here. Yeah, so we've got a couple missions regarding Minmus that we need to do, and we're going to end up picking up a couple more as well. But first we're going to upgrade our space plane hangar and our runway because we're going to be creating the rover first. So here we are, we're just starting off with a body and Science Junior, some wheels, and then the most important part, this is why I put it on as early as I do, but that reaction wheel is now going to be a part of every single rover that we ever make, going forward. And that is because that gives us reaction control while in low gravity of the mud or Minmus, and that reaction control is going to come in very handy. So we go ahead and we put 2 seats on here. This is designed to have an engineer drive and a scientist collect and reset the experiments. And got to put some life support on it because we're not sure how long this rover is going to be out on its journey for. We throw some satellite dishes, communication dishes on there, but for the most part they don't end up mattering. I don't think we are able to transmit any of the signs we have, so now I'm just going through and we're just setting up the action groups so we can do each experiment once for each button that we attach them to. So this is going to be nice. So I enjoy building. Building is probably one of my favorite parts of KSP, is just kind of thinking about how things will work in the future and try to come up with plans for any sort of incidences. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, so I'm really thinking hard on this. Now we're getting to the point where we're going to be attaching it to a ship, so we're going to go ahead and throw it into the fairing. Nice sharp and pointy fairing. So then we go and we drop this into the sub-assemblies. But first we decide that we're going to want to test it out a little bit. See how it rows. So we go ahead and we get rid of all that, throw a couple Kerbals on there. And then we have a mission to do some science around the KSC, so we decide we're gonna have our Kerbals take care of that. I was hoping that when we did first person we got to be through the eyes of the Kerbals driving it, but apparently that's not the case with the command seats. That first person IVA mode takes us into the probe control room. So we're going to figure out something to do with that. We end up, once we go through the mission, we end up doing some of it in third person. We do a little combination of probe control room and third person and the camera adjustment that's set on the front. So we play around with it. We'll see. So now we're just testing the deployment factors, make sure that everything deploys as it should. Trying to see if we can transmit the science, but it's not doing it, and that should have been my first sign that those dishes wouldn't have worked. But we're it's just a test, though. We'll work it through. It's not too big of a deal if the communication dishes don't work. We can always that's the reason why we're bringing scientists to remove all the experiments, the science that we've learned, so we can do it over and over again. And look at that interesting little Science Junior bay. It's a part of the restock mod. Very much enjoy it. I like the way that it looks. Alright, so we go ahead and we put on a small commutotron, and then we also throw on these 2 sub-satellites. These are from Universal Storage, but they have a couple experiments on them as well, so we go ahead and add those to the craft. And instead of going for a sharp, pointy nose cone, this time we go for a little bit more of a rounded egg shape. Go ahead and turn it gold, drop in the subassembly, and then let's get started on our lander. So we're of course using the Mach 3 command pod, since we recently unlocked it, and it holds 3 people. The Alcor pod is a good pod, but we need to be able to bring this home for a solid landing. So for this mission, we're just going to deal with the Mach 3 pod, because I like how stable it is. So go ahead and starting to put on some more action groups. This one is action groups dedicated for the lander itself. I have to combine the action group descriptions, so that way we don't just activate all our solar panels at once, and we only activate the ones that we need to. I put some experiment holders on here, but I don't end up using them. Just kind of waste, but they do look kind of cool. And then big old tank, tiny little Beagle engine into a nice wide base, so our craft should be nice and stable when it lands. Yep, so just organizing the staging before I put on the payload. And now we're just going to work on the lower half. Once again, we do the giant XL cryogenic tanks with the Pila engines. Do a little bit of asparagus staging on there. We got 4 side boosters this time. And that should be enough to get us all the way to Minmus and back, right? So I take the first camera that I put on into the rover and I adjust it to the side, so that way our landing camera always takes the first camera that was attached and designates that as the landing camera. So we switched it over to put that by the legs, so we can see our landing. And we go ahead and load up a pilot, an engineer, and a scientist, and we come back to the mission control to kind of grab any more relevant contracts. Grab another perform KSC, but this is the main one that we get, is we see that we have a bunch of different experiments to do in Minmus's flats. Not the lesser flats, not the greater flats, but just the regular flats. So we're gonna try to aim to make that our mission today. And we're gonna try to scan something with the rover's arm. So yeah, so we've completed the build stage. Now it's just time to fly this thing. So once again, we're in the cockpit, utilizing these screens. Again, the Alcor pod has a better setup for the screens and more capabilities with a lot of things, but this rocket still does quite a lot, and so we're gonna use it. So let's fire and let's launch. So it's going to be a rather typical takeoff. We're just tilting over slightly. It's a bit more heavy of a rocket than we're used to, but it still has the Pila engines on it, so it still has quite a heavy thrust to weight ratio. It actually has so heavy of a thrust to weight ratio, I have to limit its throttle down. I can't have it go at full speed, otherwise we will risk burning things up. We'll run into the atmosphere too much and become inefficient. So it's just best to not go full speed if you don't need to. We go ahead and we stage the first side boosters, and since they're asparagus stage, that means that our lower stage is now once again filled. to capacity, and we're ready to keep pushing forward through the atmosphere and on into space. So now I guess I could take a quick second to kind of point out a few of the things that we're looking at. So over by my cursor to the right, those sets of switches are for my landing gear. As you can see, if I can set them to automatically deploy. Next to that, we've got our temperature gauges that shows the temperature of the craft, the temperature of the outside area. It also has the pressure of the atmosphere and the percentage of the atmosphere. So that's useful to know when you're coming through and landing on a planet or moon that has atmosphere. The camera above that obviously is the camera that I installed through Wholcam's VDS. Next to that we have our staging, where it says stage 09. I can flip that switch and it's the same as acting as a spacebar. But above that we have something called the stage lock, which is completely invaluable on missions like this, where one false stage can just leave you stranded. Next to that, where it's all shadowed out, is our throttle and our throttle limiter. So we can adjust how much force is being pushed out. Even at full blast, we can tune it down. So the screen next to that is your basically all your information screen, one that my mouse is hovering over right now. That gives you your orbital period, your altitude, your apoapsis, your periapsis, your time to apoapsis, and your time to periapsis. That's what the APT and the PET is. It gives you your inclination. It gives you your time to ascending node and descending node. So you can do a lot with your orbit just through this screen alone. If you can read the numbers and know where you're at, you can do a lot with that. So our side boosters are now in the red, as you see in the vessel view right to the left of that orbital view. You see that our side boosters are red, so I know that the fuel is almost out. So I go ahead and get ready to stage it. And I can use the spacebar to stage at this point, but I figured it's nicer to do it visually and see the cursor flip the switch. So they stay red for a while. And there they go, now they're empty. So we go ahead and separate them and we watch the hull camera to see them slide away. We're not in a very good position, so it's not the easiest thing to see, but we do see them pull away and make sure that we had a safe, disaster-free separation. And since we're asparagus staged once again, we've got a full tank in our rocket, and we are pushing even higher and higher. Oh, the warnings. Okay, so at the top of the screen, you have the abort button, which is the black and yellow box right there, and then the warnings next to that. The button that is covered is your I can't remember what it's called, but it's your ground proximity warning. That will go off when you're on a sub-trajectory orbit. It's not always nice because sometimes it just goes off, even though it's like, yes, I know that I'm on a suborbital trajectory. So sometimes I just keep that off. The next one is the AVAS, or the AVAS, and that tells you your altitude. And then you have tumble, slope, and something else. But those basically tell you when the slope you're about to land on is too high, or if you're tilting over. The last one is high G, and it tells you when you're under high G forces. And then the one directly to the right of that, you can't really see it right now, but it's just a knob that gives you a warning when you're at a certain altitude. Mine is set to 500. Yeah, those are the little warning proximity things. And above all that, you have the actual warning screen that will flash a light telling you which warning is going off. And that's how you actually turn off the warnings. is by clicking on those screens. So hopefully this is a little helpful if you're wanting to play in IVA mode yourself. There's not too many tutorials on YouTube as far as like this is what this capsule is and these are the buttons and these are how you read them. There are a few tutorials out there that do show that, but they don't have any commentary, so you have to do a lot of inferences yourself. So I just wanted to take a quick second while I had a chance to just explain some of the things we were looking at. I did want to keep this launch fairly unedited, just because it's the first time that we've done it with this kind of craft, this mission. I wasn't, when I was launching the thing, I didn't do a test run of it or at all, so I was really hoping that we could make it to orbit on the first shot. Yep, and so we used flight computer to make our burn, and it didn't actually do the full thing, so we have to quickly turn into manual control to keep burning the rest. Our time to apoapsis is only 5 seconds and dropping, so we are about to pass our apoapsis, which means that we have a very high chance of not being able to circularize and fall back into the atmosphere. As you see, the proximity warning is going off. Like I said, it's telling us that we're going to come back down to the planet. And we don't want to. That's not something we want to do. So I go ahead and regain manual control of it. And I point at prograde, but I also lift the nose up from prograde just ever so slightly, which gives us the ability of adding a little bit of lift to our maneuver as well, to keep us from pointing more downwards and going into it. So now we are above, our periapsis is above 70 kilometers, so we are safe. We aren't going to fall back into the atmosphere. So we go ahead and select Minmus as our target, and we come to one of the nodes, and we come to the closest node, and we plot in our maneuver to change our relative inclination as close to 0 as possible. There's a nice little turn. You see the planet spinning below us. And we just time warp to our maneuver. We have flight computer handling it, so we don't have to worry too much. The engine will start and stop automatically. And it will do so fairly precisely, which is really nice when it comes to inclination changes, because you can really get leveled out at 0.00 something. It's nice. I like when my maneuvers are precise. It makes me feel very happy that we utilized the most of what we can for the most of what we need it for, with very little waste. I have, however, been creating a lot of space trash lately, so that's something I need to work on. We started off the series doing really well, keeping our skies clear, but gotten a little bit lazy. We've stopped putting explosive charges on things, and I think we need to get back to that. Now we're just slowly waiting for the relative inclination. So you can see that was the number that I just highlighted. And once that reaches 0, we will be ready to make our next set of maneuvers to put us into the sphere of influence of Minmus. But anyways, that is all I have for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider giving me a like, and I will see you in the next one, where we continue more of our Minmus trip. And then don't forget to check out Escaping Kerbin, because we're going to be visiting the Mun. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.